But I'm certainly not going into the game against Croatia thinking we can't win because they are simply so much better than us. We can definitely get something out of the game because they're not so much better than us.
Well, they say in the horse racing industry, send the best to the best and hope for the best. And to preview Scotland's Group D opener against the Czech Republic, the best. Joining the bookmakers.co.uk team, once again, Mr. McInally, Alan McInally. Greetings.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for that. It was a very, very nice introduction. I'll take that all day long.
Well, that's where the compliments stop, because we are going to give you the Chinese burn now. We want to know exactly how this one's going to play out, because the first thing I'd really like to talk to you about, Alan, and every proud Scotsman will surely relate to what's been a starvation of live sport, not just football, but there's this very special sense of urgency about this tournament now. We all need it for so many reasons, but Scotland, it almost feels to me as if this opener in Group D against the Czech Republic is set up for victory. For the first time in months, Scotland get to play in front of, all right, not a full crowd, but nonetheless, a loud, raucous, vociferous, enthusiastic, excited crowd against the Czechs, home soil, first match, expectancy, the way they've qualified. Is it set up for victory?
Well, yeah, but because everything looks so wonderfully streamlined for us, we'll manage to do something that'll make us a little bit more nervous. But let's hope we get more goals than what the Czech Republic do. Listen, you're right, Tom. It's a great build-up, mate. And it wasn't... I was actually listening to an interview by Stevie Clarke, and I'd been okay. I mean, we've been laughing and joking, and it's great to be there again. And it was still a little bit like, well, that's good we're there. I'm getting excited. I genuinely am now. I'm getting excited like I was as a player. The expectancy. I put myself in the dressing room. I put myself training with the lads, having a laugh and a joke, knowing all the time there's an underlying current of just this expectation, just this little buzz that you know is just going to be round the corner. And as a player, you're waiting for Stevie Clarke to say, you're playing, and you're playing. So I'm already there, and I am looking forward to this. It's at Hampden. You're right. It'll sound as though there's a full stadium, and we play the Czech Republic with a genuine opportunity to start with 3 points. So I am, to be honest, pretty bursting about it. Absolutely, I am.
In the bookmakers.co.uk preview for the tournament, you gave a brilliant answer, and you explained how there are nerves, there are tensions, but you've got to use those to fuel you in a positive way. Those players, those starting 11, a couple of substitutes who are almost certain to get on the pitch at some point, 15 minutes before the match, they're sitting in the dressing room, the manager's given his final address. Just put us into as a layman, to me, I would love to project myself into a player's mind's eye. What are they feeling? What are the senses? What's overwhelming them? What's the emotion? What's the tension? Is it anxiety? Is it adrenaline? Is it nerves? Is it pure excitement? Or is it a combination of all of those things, as they know their parents are watching, their girlfriends, their wives, their best mates, their families could be in the stands. They're definitely watching on TV. What's the mindset?
Well, let's take out the word anxiety, because I don't like that. I don't like players that are anxious and worried about something. The butterflies should be there almost all the time. But you've got to channel it. You've got to look forward to it. This is what it's all about. And listen, everybody, right? Let's go to 15 minutes before the game. Everybody's doing their own thing. The gaffer's going round. So is some of the assistants. They're reminding what your job is. Set the free kicks, set pieces, for and against, corners, etc. If they're playing up top with somebody, or the strikers are together, or the forward guys, you're all like, just reminding, patting each other on the back. Remember what we worked on, etc., etc. And everybody's kind of going through their own little scenario. 5 minutes to go, the bell goes. The ears come up. You need to start thinking about things, who I'm playing against, what we spoke about, and then you can start thinking about your family. I used to think about my grandfather all the time, because my grandfather was, a proud Scotsman, etc. And obviously, I knew he was going to be there as well as my dad. But then I wasn't really trying to. I don't think my mum went to one of the Scotland games because my dad wouldn't let her go because she was like, she was shouting too much and people wouldn't realise.
She's just phoned you now to apologise, I think.
Yeah, no, sorry, that's my fault. Sorry. That is my fault. She'll just be wondering, saying, "Are you doing the bookmakers thing today?" I'm going to have to throw this off, by the way. Sorry about that, guys. And hopefully you're in a position now where you're like, okay, I'm ready to go. We're all ready to go. We go as a team. I'll tell you what's really important is the experience in the team there. You know, we're going into a situation, having not played for 23 years since 1966, which incidentally, Czech Republic got to the final that year, is the experience in the team, and we don't have massive international experience, but the likes of McGinn and Robertson and McTominay and Tierney, who all play for top football clubs and play with that kind of pressure every weekend, they'll be important. They'll be really important. And that's where, you know, you're delighted just to get out the dressing room. Let me go. I want to go. And when you hear the noise when the dressing room door opens, and then you walk out to the tunnel and you see the grass, greener than green grass has ever been before. And then you can let the elastic band and you go, boom, let's hope it's a good result.
You've just preempted my next two questions, but anecdotally, I remember as a child, as a very small boy, going to Old Trafford and lingering in the stairway at the end of the match because I never wanted to take my gaze away from that green grass because I wouldn't see it for another week or two, and it'd just be lingering. More love than you could ever feel for any other human being or animal, just to look at that green turf and just think, my word, please never let this experience be over. Anecdote aside, you've just preempted two things there, Alan. One of which, you talk about stepping out from that tunnel, going out onto the turf there at Hampden Park. Tell me about the effects of those supporters, because, all right, there won't be as many as there might be in conventional times, but maybe they'll make twice as much noise if that's possible. That is a significant advantage to be on home soil, yes?
And there is a pressure that comes with that, because when you grow up in Scotland, we're expected to qualify, we're expected to do really well, but if you don't, you'll find out about it pretty quickly. So you do carry a bit of a pressure because we're a hard nation to please, and we've been starved of competition football for a long time, and I think we've got a bit like, we're just not good enough anymore. You know, maybe that's just the way it was. We always used to be there. Tartan Army would colourfully light up the whole tournament. In the last 20 odd years, it's just been like, we're just not going to get there. And now all of a sudden we are, and we think, oh yeah, that's what it was like. And the young guys that were 10, 12, 15 years old watching me when I was playing are now a lot older, looking forward to something they used to get all the time. So yeah, it's with the crowd, you've already experienced the crowd. We'll bag the crowd, we'll put it in a little box, because when you arrive in the bus can't get to the stadium. You know, there's thousands of people there. We can't get in. There's a police escort. We've already tasted that part. So that bit we've already compartmentalised a little bit. But it's not until you go out into the pitch that all of a sudden the noise is louder that you think, gee whiz, this is oh yeah, this is why I want to play football. And you've got to really take that. You've got to bin it, but you've got to drag it into you. And you've got to, you know, when you go for a tackle and you get a corner, or you have a shot and it's not on target, and there's the ooh, etc., etc. You know, there's normally they're with you. The fans are with you. They're not there to boo you. And although you might do something wrong and make a mistake, etc., you've got to get rid of it really quickly, because you know that they're not looking to boo you. They're looking to be on your side and help you through those hard times. That's why I expected the Tartan Army. And the boys are going to experience that firsthand on Monday. God, I wish it was me.
Incredible, and a very, very vivid recollection. I like that answer very much. Talk to me then about a phrase you used, expected to qualify. The public expect you to qualify. If Scotland could get 3 points here, if they might get 1 or 3 points against England, maybe no points against England, who knows? Cast that one aside. You yourself in the preview mentioned that Croatia, coached by Zlatko Dalic, finalists in the World Cup 3 years ago. However, you told me they're not the force of old. They're an older, slower, more fatigued team. Perhaps they're slightly past their sell-by date. That's another potential 3-pointer for your team.
Yeah, maybe, but we'll know what we have to do. Having said that, that also is not maybe a great thing. But I suppose if you know what you have to do, I think we go into the Croatia game, forget what happens in the first two games. Let's just say we need to win a game, let's for instance say. Then I'd be relatively happy with us at Hampden playing against Croatia, because I genuinely don't think Croatia are anywhere near the team they were. back then. And obviously they're not. They've got some younger players coming through, but nothing that I don't think that Scotland have to worry about. And I think I have to worry more about Scotland in terms of not worry about Scotland. We've got some great players coming through, like Kevin Nisbet and Callum McGregor and David Turnbull coming through. You know, they're every bit as good as anything Croatia have coming through. They obviously still rely on their big guns because they're still fantastic, world players. And Modric is obviously the catalyst for all of that. But again, can't really say that he's had the greatest season in the planet. Real Madrid didn't win the title. They didn't win the Champions League. The manager's gone. There's a new manager coming in, although he's a good player. And we have to make sure he doesn't run the shooting match. So we know what to expect from Croatia. But I'm certainly not going into the game against Croatia thinking we can't win because they are simply so much better than us. We can definitely get something out of the game because they're not so much better than us. And I think we'll prove it in the Czech game and in the England game. And if we can take any kind of momentum into that, then I'll be really genuinely disappointed. I'm not, because I've had a little bet on us at 21 to qualify, so I'll be genuinely gutted if we don't.
Talk to me about John McGinn, because I guess if Scotland need a talisman, everybody who knows and has spent time in and around John McGinn will immediately tell you what an absolutely ferociously positive, infectious, likeable, lovable, charming character he is. Charm doesn't win you football matches. When he laces his boots up, is this a guy who can lead Scotland out of that group? Is he the talisman? Is he the key figure? And frankly, in your estimation, having done it at the very top level, a champion in Scotland, a champion in Germany, is he good enough to be the talisman right here, right now?
Yeah, he is. He's a good player, John McGinn. I don't think yet he's got the credit for the way he plays at Aston Villa yet, because Aston Villa have got some really good players in there. I just think he's one of the squad. But I think when we step up to international level, I think he's going to prove to everybody how good he is, genuinely. I think him and McTominay are our certainly most experienced players, with Robertson, obviously, who I mentioned, and Tierney playing at top teams. I think he could be the one that the other players certainly look to. I don't think there's any question about that. I don't think he carries the burden on his own, because the players I've mentioned, I think, are just as important as John. But if someone's going to spark us into life, and I hope he plays that a little bit further forward than what McTominay does, then he is absolutely the one that can slip somebody through or score a goal or get into the box. That's what I'm looking forward to. That's what I'm looking forward to the most on Monday, is to see how John McGinn can influence the game more than what Andy from Czech Republic can. Because I think he's our man there. I think Scott will do a job more defensively, but I've got to look for McGinn and Christie and Armstrong and Robertson down the left-hand side and probably O'Donnell down the right-hand side. And then I don't know who's playing up top yet. Steve hasn't given really any indication. But certainly in John McGinn, I'd be looking for him to be our free kick taker. He doesn't take pens. Who takes the pens? Ryan Christie took a pen. Maybe John would take one. But certainly, to answer your question in a little nutshell, is that McGinn might just be the spark that at times in the game when we might be under a little bit of pressure, he does something extraordinary that puts us back on the forward foot.
Very few things in life, Alan, can elicit opinion and emotion like a major international football tournament. No less a figure than the former Scotland manager Craig Brown came out of late and said not only did he think Scotland were going to go really well, he even suggested, and I'm not sure if he was being playful or if there was a more menacing intent buried in here, he said the Scots could go all the way and win this thing. And we talked about Greece, 100-1 shots back in 2004. Was he being serious? Do you actually tally with that? Or was he talking out of his tartan hat?
He wears that tartan hat quite a lot, Brown. He does. And by the way, what a great man he is. If you talk about, when you get to talk about football with Craig Brown and what he's experienced. I mean, he was the assistant with Scotland in the World Cup in 1990 when we were there. He obviously then went on to take the job on his own and was successful to a point. He really is a fantastic orator and a wonderful knowledge of football. I think he's been pretty partisan. I don't think we can win it, although I think we can certainly take more part than just the group stages. And I think that would be a step in the right direction for us. The Greece thing, I suppose, well, in that case, we're in the competition. We are in the competition. North Macedonia will be saying, why not? We're 250-1, Czech Republic 150-1. I think they've got that wrong. I think maybe just be 150 would be nice. But Craig, in terms of his love of us, the game, and obviously the Tartan Army and everything it brings with them, yeah, listen, we're not going to say we're not going to win it. Until we don't win it, we'll say, right, okay, we didn't win it. Until then, we're in the competition. I went to the World Cup thinking we could win it. We didn't. It happens. We're in this competition in the Euros with a realistic chance, A, to get out the group stages, and then you never know.
You've already given us a really good tip, actually, that Scotland at odds against can qualify from Group D. And of course, that's an exciting group, which I don't think too many people need reminding that your second opponent is England. That's an England team who, with the fans, with the press, with this burden of expectation that seems to build up, and we got really fantastic illumination on this from Emil Heskey when you and I were chatting with him in the full preview. What did the English, when you see this from a, if you will, a sort of a third-party perspective, I know you're not neutral, but you are objective. So what do the English have to do? How far do they have to go for this to be deemed a success? What do they have to achieve? Have they got to win it? Do they have to get out of the group? Have they at least got to get through the quarterfinals? I think me, as an Englishman, my own perspective on this is if they don't get to the last four, particularly given the problems that Spain have got with COVID, you see the way that Germany seem to have cracks in their team and no recognised striker potentially, see the way the Dutch always seem to find a way to squabble, etc. To me, I would say that potentially the last four seems like a minimum requirement, particularly based on what they achieved in the World Cup 3 years ago. From your stance, from the Scottish perspective, where would the ridicule stop for the English? Where would you say, fair play, lads, you did enough, you did some manner of justice, or have they got to go all the way? Is that how serious this is for Gareth Southgate now?
Yeah, I mean, I think to be fair, I think Gareth has genuinely players at his disposal that a lot of the managers in the top 5, 6 in the betting would be completely delirious about. That brings its own pressure. It also brings its own pressure to the lads. And I talk specifically about, and I've said this to you, Tom, before. If fit, if 80% fit, Foden, Kane, Grealish, forget about the rest at the moment. Forget about the rest. Mount's had such a good season. I think he's probably a starter. I think Reece James on the right-hand side. And if you're talking about those players in particular, and it looks as though Harry Maguire is making huge strides, incidentally, that he might be involved, then England must be looking as a minimum to be in the semi-final. Minimum, genuinely. They'll think they can beat us. They'll certainly think they can beat Croatia and the Czech Republic, top the group. And then, well, having said that, I think it might be, is it France, Germany, Portugal, or Hungary, or something from one of the other groups. It's going to be a tough next path, having said that. But the players they have at their disposal, and incidentally, Harry Kane was the top goal scorer in the World Cup, Tom, was he? I think the last time we were there. You know, I know there's an uncertainty about his future at the moment, although I think he can pack that and worry about that after the Euros. But I genuinely think if they don't get to the semi-final, then a lot of people will think, why do we expect England to get to a position where maybe we're building these players up that are not good enough that we think they are? I do think they're good enough. I genuinely do. I think you've got some brilliant football players and young international football players that would get into the loads of the top 6 teams. And I mean the French team, and I mean the Spanish team, and the German team, etc., etc. So I don't think winning it would be fabulous for England, obviously. And I hope that doesn't happen, naturally. But I do think if they don't get to the last 4, I think it'll be deemed as, well, that wasn't the way we wanted it, and that wasn't a successful tournament.
Alan McInally, after the incident with the mobile phone earlier in the conversation, you have just saved yourself a second yellow card. You remain on the pitch with a nod and a smile from the referee. Very good answer.
It was my mum, for God's sakes.
And we know the context. Listen, we will do this again before Friday night, when, of course, it will be England-Scotland in Wembley Stadium. But for now, Monday, 2 o'clock, Hampden Park, Group D, the opener for Scotland against the Czech Republic. Alan McInally, bookmakers.co.uk, score prediction for the opening fixture on home soil is
Scotland 2, Czech Republic 1.
Scotland 2, Czech Republic 1. is the official verdict. So that in itself, the Scots just shy of 2-1 for the match. They're odds against to qualify from Group D. That will do very nicely. Look forward to talking to you in a few days' time when, of course, we will know how this plays out. Will it indeed be 2-1 to the Scots? Alan, thanks for being with us and great to have you aboard the bookmakers.co.uk ship.
Thank you, Tom.